In boxing, sparring is essential. Even 100 years ago, featherweight champion Jim Driscoll claimed British fighters struggled for breath when confronted by the Philadelphian sparring practice of 1 to 3 daily 18-minute rounds. If fighters skip sparring, the results are often catastrophic. Prior to his first Max Schmeling bout, Joe Louis's neglect of sparring for golf and mumbling sweet nothings into his wife's ear was costly.
And Lewis looks like a man about to fall. Oh, and down he goes!
Sparring is essential for building cardio and stamina, alongside refining technique, power and timing, as it closely mirrors actual boxing bouts. While boxers worldwide incorporate sparring into their training, extensive research reveals significant differences in approach and intensity across countries. Let's explore these variations to uncover which region delivers the toughest sparring sessions before scoring it out of 10. Now, this video is obviously based upon generalizations. Sparring does vary from gym to gym, so let's examine the broad stereotypes behind each nation's sparring culture. And anyway, let me know down in the comments below what your sparring is like. When it comes to brutal and intense sparring, Mexico stands out. Fighters are trained for explosiveness and to dominate with relentless inside fighting. Sparring sessions can be punishing. One English visitor to a Cancun-based gym in 2014 noted the lack of mouth guards and recalled receiving a black eye from an opponent's relentless combinations. Additionally, on Quora, a user highlighted Mexico's boxing culture, where avoiding tough matchups or excessive clinching is seen as cowardly, emphasizing a no excuses mentality. Unlike other countries, weight differentials aren't deemed as barriers, so everyone tends to spar regardless. This fact is echoed in Canelo Alvarez's biography, as he was forced to learn quickly and adapt to different opponents, often with them being older and larger. Leave a like for the algorithm. With the immense poverty across much of Mexico, training and sparring provides a form of escapism. It's the ticket to freedom for poverty-stricken kids. Understandably then, young boxers will seek to prove and establish themselves through tough spars in their gym. Those who've experienced this environment highlight the absence of light sparring, and this also extends to Muay Thai. It's reported that coaches often encourage fighters to go harder, even if it's costly for overall technique. I'd expect fighters to incur many painful body shots from short hooks when spars inevitably descend into phone booth boxing matches. Dominic Barry provides an excellent example of this trend.
It's a little rough out here. This is the point where I found out this dude wants to kind of throw. Took me a second to realize he was still standing after that shot, but you never want to be in this position with a heavy hitter, where none of your shots are effective. You got me this apple juice.
Overall, Mexicans are both clearly competitive and hard as nails, making sparring there both grueling and often damaging. I'll therefore give it a 9 out of 10 for brutality. Travelling north, we get to the United States. Honestly, this is a behemoth to cover, as I feel there is a broad spread of sparring methods across gyms, so let's analyse the key ones. Ireland's former featherweight world champion Barry McGuigan once said of his introduction to training in American gyms, "I boxed around with a guy, thought that was that, then saw 11 guys lining up behind him." The British boxer Nigel Benn, upon moving to the US to develop as a fighter, said, "In the States, I get hurt in the gym. One of my first sparring partners smacked me in the mouth and knocked out my gum shield. I couldn't eat for a week and had to drink soup." For years, Brits have deemed American gyms as the litmus test for determining whether they can become world champion, so the sparring is evidently grueling. The Mayweather gym is particularly renowned for this. In Floyd's book, he mentions his routine before fighting Arturo Gatti in 2005. He said, "For this fight, we boxed 17 rounds, 15 rounds, 13 rounds at a time. We boxed 5, 6 sometimes we boxed 30-minute rounds straight. One sparring partner gets out, another gets in. We boxed 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 20 minutes straight." Even more ominous is the doghouse spars, where the whole gym crowds around the ring to witness essentially a fight to the death. The spar only ends when one fighter quits. Watching footage online, the atmosphere looks highly toxic, but hey, it evidently bred success in the past. Perhaps it now breeds big egos and brain damage. Manny Stewart's Kronk's gym is highly touted and historic. Training boxers like Thomas Hearns, Evander Holyfield and Julio Cesar Chavez back in the day, the sparring was notoriously hard by all accounts. Irish boxer Andy Lee, who relocated to Detroit to train at Kronk, offers a modern perspective on this sparring culture in his book. He described the gym as suffocatingly intimate, offering nowhere to hide. Sparring sessions featured 4 intense 3-minute rounds, often with a new opponent each round in sweltering heat. Manny Stewart, however, was known for his slightly more protective approach, stopping sessions before unnecessary damage occurred. Yet he often made his fighters return to pad work and intense training after spars to ensure supreme conditioning. Since Stewart's passing, recent footage suggests a shift away from this caution, making sparring still brutal, though probably not quite Mayweather level. There are obviously other notable boxing gyms like Gleason's in Brooklyn and Wildcard Boxing Club in LA, but my research tends to point to one thing. As Jim Driscoll noted in 1914, the American may arrange to have a string of sparring partners ready to jump in from time to time, in much the same fashion as a cyclist will work his pacing tandems. Once the fight is over, back he goes to training again. This brutality has formed the bedrock of American sparring and explains why so many top foreign fighters like Klitschko, Amir Khan and Tyson Fury opt to cross the pond to ensure they are battle hardened. For me, it's 10 out of 10, but Americans, let me know if I've missed anything in the comments. Jim Driscoll once described British boxers as leisurely, with fighters sparring for openings in a lackadaisical fashion and taking little strolls around the ring. While this paints UK gyms as passive and lacking intensity, the reality is different. The sparring culture prioritizes caution, aiming to minimize unnecessary blows to the head. According to England's 2022 boxing rulebook, all sparring participants must complete an annual medical, and any boxer who suffers a knockout is immediately suspended for 30 days. This strictness is perhaps born from a combination of historic trauma, rapid advancements in CTE-based research, and a general feeling that sparring should be deployed for refining timing and technique. The renowned Ingle Boxing Gym, based in Winkerbank, Sheffield, who've produced incredible fighters like Prince Nassim, Harold Graham, Johnny Nelson, and Kell Brook, kindly highlighted their no hard spars policy, instead opting for body sparring at higher intensity. The gym's pros do open sparring once a week, but the caution persists. I also feel the conventional style taught in many gyms lends itself to a steadier pace. At my boxing club, the fundamentals for fighting on the outside are stressed endlessly, so sparring tends to consist of a sniping match involving jabs with each fighter maintaining a high guard. Unlike Mexican gyms where sluggish brawls are effectively encouraged, Brits are taught to get out of the pocket. My friend Michael Hall, who's built up a 100% record in amateur bouts, feels UK boxers are highly protected and are consistently taught to fight behind the jab. On occasion, he noted fighters would stay in for 2 or 2.5 rounds to face different opponents, but trainers were always quick to step in, unlike in other countries. Obviously, this caution can vary from gym to gym, but the atmosphere of safety and fighting on the outside does seem to prevail. For this reason, I'll give 4 out of 10. Now, Japan. If you have watched boxing anime, namely Hajime no Ippo, the depiction of Japanese sparring is brutal, with Ippo and Miyata smashing lumps out of each other in the initial episodes. The fierce determination and competitiveness of the country's boxers perhaps adds to this notion. Yet the truth is more complex. The boxing coaches, like in judo and baseball, are often very experienced, passionate practitioners who are immersed in the sport and their own fighters. So, although sparring is fast-paced and rough at times, it omits the flashiness and ego-centered aspects inherent in countries like the US. Unlike in the UK, children under 10 can spar, with a more analytical, reflective approach deployed to ensure progression. Brendan Taylor from the True School Sports channel, go check him out, gave some fascinating insights into this attitude.
Sparring for the Japanese is not an ego thing. They're really trying to see what works and what doesn't in the ring. And I remember the kid he was sparring jumped in with like a right hand. And the kid fell short in the southpaw. He just took a little step back and he just shot a sharp, straight left hand right down the middle. And he caught this kid right on the top of his dome. He stopped the sparring to literally talk to the kid about why he got hit with that shot.
It therefore seems like the country has a refreshing and accurate view of sparring, deeming it as an exercise to expose frailties and weaknesses before swiftly correcting them to ensure its fighters improve. The caution has possibly spawned from the spate of deaths in Japanese rings over the last couple of years. I've previously made a video on this trend, linked down below. Overall, I'd give Japan a 6 out of 10 for brutality. In Cuba, sparring is quite unique.
You ever see Cubans sparring? They're like 50 guys in a room. They're just touch sparring. There's no headgear. There's no mat on the floor. They're literally sparring on concrete. You think they're really trying to drop each other? They're on concrete. I mean, the Cubans are the top boxers. They consistently win gold medals. But in practice room, they're playful. Nobody gets hurt. Like you're saying, the ties.
The country seems to prioritize light sparring, enabling their fighters to effectively practice it every day, with the Cuban style often revolving around counter-punching and a slick defense, alongside being developed to score points at the Olympics as opposed to knocking out opponents. The sparring isn't dictated by landing power shots. Instead, it provides boxers with the opportunity to move around the ring, utilize footwork, control their breathing, and use head movement. This relaxed format allows fighters to spar at a much earlier age than in countries like the UK. They are also keen to put boxers in the ring to spar, but only if they are at the adequate level to ensure safety. Now, I've seen some Cuban documentaries which show harder spars, even amongst children, but in the Olympic boxing camps, the sparring tends to be lighter and more focused upon shots to the body. Now, Cuba gets a 3 out of 10 from me. But now I'd really like to hear what you guys think. This video was obviously quite general and based on big assumptions at times, so I'd really like to hear about your personal experience of sparring, whether that be at your local gym or even boxing clubs you visited. If you've enjoyed this breakdown, then please let me know by leaving a like. If this video gets 1,000 likes, I'll make a part 2 in which I cover countries like Puerto Rico, Russia, Argentina, and perhaps some others. Genuinely, thank you so much for watching and supporting the channel, guys. I really do appreciate it. My New Year's resolution was to have 40,000 subscribers by the end of 2025, which could be an incredibly tall order. We'll have to wait and see, but please share the channel when you can, and we'll see what happens. Thanks very much. Cheers.